All right, so let's start with the animation lesson here. We're going to do cyclic animation and then follow path, so we can make this plane look like it's doing its thing. It's flying, and the propeller keeps spinning. All right. So first things first, we got to prepare the model for that. Let's just do that real quick, kind of like a side lesson. All right. So right now, if I press tab right here, this thing is still has its modifier. It's still not mirrored yet, so that's the first thing we need to do is apply the mirror. All right, so then it becomes solid, and then we have to join all the other pieces here so that it's just it all goes together. All right, so it's a low poly model. Let's start joining the parts. Okay, so it's pretty easy to do that. Let's make sure though that the parts that we need to kind of put together are the ones that are kind of rigid. They're not gonna affect the animation later on, and we don't need to separate anything. So I just left the wheels and then the propeller right here. So everything else, let's turn on our screencast. It's a little too small, so let's see here. Well, I don't think I can change the size, but it should be showing over here. I'm going to put it on the left right there. Okay, so Control J joins it. Okay, you can also go to Object and then Join. Command J for the Mac. Control J also works. Okay, so that one's ready. For the wheels, we do want them to be parented to this in case we want to animate it later. We won't do this for this lesson, but let's just show that. We do have lessons in parenting in the channel, so check it out if you're not familiar with that. So select the wheels and then always select the parent last, which is basically the body of the plane, and then Control P, and we just want it object. Okay, so that means whenever we move the body of the plane, the wheels follow, but they still have their independence. Okay, well, we got to fix the pivot point for them. Let's do that real quick. Just center to geometry right there. Oops. Yeah, we got to apply this also. There we go. And origin to geometry, just at least they're centered right there, so that, there you go, in case we want to do that. All right. Let's check the propeller right here. We will be spinning this part. This is the one that's going to have its rotation, and then the propeller should just follow. So we're just going to join this together. So I'm going to select the propeller right here, shift click. This is going to be the parent. Control P. Actually, let's just join them, just one piece. Okay. Control J. Let's also apply the mirror on this one. Apply the simple deform first. Oh, no. All right, there we go. So now it's just one piece. Shift click. That one. Control J. All right, so now this is one piece. And let's take a look. All right, so that would be the animation for that later on. Okay, so, and let's start naming these things. So the body right here, this will be just a plain body. Okay, and then wheels, and then we'll call this one the propeller. All right, so we got those. If I can only spell. All right, and the propeller should be under, the wheel should be under because it's parented to that, right? So now we gotta parent this last to the body. So select the propeller, shift click the body, always select the parent last, control P, object. All right, so now when I move the plane body, everything follows, but we still have the independence of everything. All right, so before I do any of that, let me select everything here and apply all transforms. Let's see if I have to do delta here in order to change the value. Okay, no, looks like we're good. Everything is as if it was made right here at the very beginning, as if we had a default object. So this one is now ready to go. I'm going to save it. So biplane final project. All right, then I'll just dump it on my list of Blender files right there. All right, so this will be available. We'll add a Google link to the in the description if you do want to play with this, but it'll be set up already like this. Okay. All right, so let's start the animation process. So first is the cycle of the animation, right? So let's mess with this one first. All right, so first thing is we want to make sure the pivot point is where it's supposed to be. Okay, because otherwise you will not be able to get the desired animation effect that you want. All right, so I'm going to go to my rotate tool here, so it'll be quite obvious where it is pivoting to. All right, so right here the pivot point is down here. Okay, and if we want to move that, we can, you can force it to go to object here, set the origin. So the pivot point, or the point of rotation in Blender, we call it origin. All right, so if I go origin to geometry, okay, it's just jump to the center of the object. Okay, so assuming here, I'm going to press number 1 to go to numpad. Okay, assuming here that it's centered exactly where it's at. All right, so it's very important when you do your model and when you position things, it's supposed to go where it's supposed to go. So y-axis is our rotation here, and as you can see here, it should work. There's not a wobble in there, kind of like with the wheels. If I go with number 3 right here, okay, we can set it to that one. All right, the reason why I'm doing this, it's so that we could show you pivot point animation, the point of rotation, because we could parent this with keep transform and it will keep the pivot point. But for this one, just so that you could see, another extra kind of lesson is how do you change the point of rotation. So if you select the wheels right here, you go to object, set origin, and then you simply say origin to geometry, meaning jump to the center of the object. Okay, there it is. So now the red is what we want. There's other options, of course. You can set origin to 3D cursor. We'll jump to that one, or specific one, because you can go to center of mass just on the surface or the volume. All right, so or geometry, it's similar to that. But you can also set your pivot point to a particular surface or vertex you can snap to. You can make the 3D cursor snap to a particular part, and then you just simply tell it, okay, go over there, and then that'll be the pivot point. Okay, let's go for the plane also. So for the plane, all right, so now everything is, did we have double of this plane? Oh, let's see here. Oh, I thought I applied it already. Okay, I guess I must miss that one. Okay, all right. Now it should be good. All right, here we go. That was weird. All right, so I thought I got all that stuff applied. All right, so now the plane is ready. Let's do another save. Okay, so this is now ready to go. Then I'll save it as a different name so that you guys will get this exactly like this one before we animate it, so you get a chance to play with it. Okay, so next is let's do our cycle animation. So it's this one right here. Okay, so to make this a little bit easier to kind of see what's happening is let's do 2 windows right here. So I'm going to right click here at this edge where you can kind of expand your windows, right? So I'm going to go vertical split, move my mouse right here, okay, so that we could see this at an angle, and then on this one I can go to the front. All right, and of course you can just easily just go to animation tab right here and kind of do the exact same thing. It's just that it's kind of showing you guys what what you can do to kind of customize Blender as well. All right, so now that we have it here, we want to animate it. We need my sidebar. Press N. I don't need my sidebar right here, so I'm going to press N as in Nancy. All right, I do want it here because this one will show you your transform values. Okay, so this one has a particular value. Let me go to apply all transform, just so that I want it kind of zeroed out. Oh, sorry. Object, apply, transform delta. Okay, so that means it will keep its pivot point and zero out its location. All right, just so that everything is kind of starting with the same value. I'm going to click the same thing here. It has values right here, so I'm going to go to object, apply, all transform to deltas. Okay, it simply means that you're zeroing out the information so that you won't get any skewing or any sort of weird stuff when you're animating. Okay, there's a lesson on that one in the channel as well, most on the modeling part, because that's when we apply our UVs and whatnot. Okay, so here's just kind of like a quick lesson on that one. All right, so let's select our propeller right here, and then we do want to animate it using rotation along the y-axis. So if I click and drag my mouse here, as you can see, I'm getting positive value, and then you're getting that. All right, so that's all we need to animate here. Okay, and the question is how much of a rotation? Okay, and if you wanted to, so let's kind of simplify it first. All right, let's change our animation to let's go with 100 frames right here for now, and then I'm going to kind of center my timeline right here. So all right, we get to see it a little bit bigger. Okay, so your timeline right now is set to 100, so we just want to, let's say, animate, let's say 2 seconds of this, okay, or 30 frames, maybe 30 frames will do. Okay, so 1 to 30. So first I'm going to go to frame 1 and then keyframe the starting rotation, which is no rotation, right? I know it should be going already from the beginning to end, but we'll change all that stuff. So y-axis is what we want to manipulate. So I'm going to right click rotation Y right here. Okay, because you can keyframe. If I press I and then just do rotation, it keys all X, Y, and Z. Sometimes you want that because you want to put a keyframe markers to certain part of the timeline even without any animation value. However, these are static ones, and they're wasting energy. You're wasting memory and whatnot. So just pressing I and rotation would actually do it, but you are also animating axis that you don't need. All right, so I'm going to click undo for that one. We're just going to go here, right click, and then insert single keyframes. You can see the I shortcut does it for all of them, right? Insert single keyframe. All right, so now I have a keyframe on, let me go to my dope sheet right here. Okay, I should have a keyframe on this one. Let's go to, yeah, animation tab, but it will show all the keyframes here. All right, actually, let's just go here. It's just that I don't, I want to do control the camera on this one. All right, let's just go here. I'm gonna go 1 right here. So this is our working camera. This is what the recording camera is. Okay. All right, let's kind of give it. All right, right there. So I got my object transform. If I expand this, you can see it says we're doing the Euler Y. I mean, there's a lesson on that one in the channel also regarding which one you should be using. We're going to be using Euler. It's just simple. All right, there it is, frame 1, right? And let me expand this now. It's like, all right, and then we're going to go to frame 30. We're going to start putting value on this one. So how much rotation? All right, so let's keep it simple here, right? So if I go, obviously right here, 360, all right, it'll do one full rotation, but you got 359, then it's like 1 degree off, so we can kind of cycle it, right? So if I go here and then I right click, insert single keyframe, obviously now you're gonna see that that propeller really slowly, it'll do, okay, 360 rotation. All right, however, the thing with this is that if this thing is already flying, you see the character of the animation right there. So it's slow to spin first, and then when we get to 30, it starts slowing down. So that won't be good if you want to cycle this, because it'll have that kind of pulsating look to it that it's not very mechanical. It's starting to add principles of animation. That's what you want if you just want to start it slow and then ramp it up. But for our purpose, this plane is already flying, all right? So when we cycle it, okay? Another thing we can do here is like, let's say, all right, that's way too slow, you know, for 160. Then you can move your keys right here. So if I select my key for 30 and I press G for grab or the move tool, then I can move this, let's say 15 frames instead of 30, and watch what happens. You get faster rotation, okay? And even faster if I select this, press G, and I go to, let's say, 5 frames. So 5 frames, it'll do all that rotation in 5 frames. So I'm not into aviation like back in the day, so but I think we can get away with that, or even probably put this, let's say, at 10 for now. All right, then we can always change it. All right, so now that's probably way too slow. Let's go at 5 frames, 360 at 5 frames. Okay, again, folks, this is basically just optical illusion, right? I mean, looks like it's kind of like when you're watching wheels on cars when they're, when they're running. It looks like they're actually doing reverse, so on and so forth. Okay, so we'll probably get away with that one. All right, so 5 frames, and then let's go to our graph editor. Okay, our graph editor now will report. Okay, I'm going to press A to select all, then I'm going to press dot on the numpad, and then it'll view all. Okay, so you can see here we have a slow in and then slow out on the rotation. All right, we don't want that, even though you can barely see it here because it's only 5 frames. Let's make sure this is already running. So let's make this linear or kind of like mechanical. So there's no ease in or ease out. All right. So while both keys are selected by pressing A, you can also drag one and then shift click the other. Okay. Press V as in victory and change it to vector. It'll give you this straight line. So when you play it, okay, it's more kind of even, no ramping up, no slowing down. Okay. So that's how we fix that. We simply select both keys, press V as in victory, and then change it to vector. All right, so I'm going to go to change this back to the dope sheet. All right, so now we can cycle this. All right, so right here, select both, Shift E, make cyclic. All right, so now when we play this, it just keeps doing that. All right. So we might need to adjust because I don't like that we don't, it's almost like a 45 degree rotation when we do 5 right here. So I'll move this a little bit. All right, to 7 right there. So hopefully we get a little bit more variation. There we go. So now we can see it that it's 5. It just happens to snap on the 45 degree rotation and we're not getting the result that we want. All right, so I move it to 7. Okay, and it's cycling, so it's just doing that nonstop. All right, next is that we need to add some animation to the body. All right, so again, keep in mind we're just keeping it simple here. We're not even using any helpers yet, meaning I'm actually animating the actual object here. I'm not using an empty or a helper. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing for the body right here. Okay, so what we want right now is I'm gonna press T to get my tools. Okay, I'm gonna go to my move tool right here. So we want it kind of hovering, kind of like that, just a little bit, just so that it shows that there's kind of movement that's happening. All right, I'm gonna go back to frame 1. Okay, and then I'm going to start the animation for this. All right, so I'm gonna go number 1 right here so we could see the position. All right, so it looks like we also have to do our transform deltas for this one. All right, so that did that. So let's make sure here that everything's still running. Okay, so the body selected. Okay, now I will animate this. All right, so on frame 1, we want the z-axis. That's the up and down right here. Okay, you can also grab the blue key. So I'm just going to keyframe it where it's at. Single keyframe. Okay, so let's say here, let's go to frame 15. Okay, let's go to frame 15, and then we're going to move it. Let's say we move it up. Okay, just slight right there. 0.28 is what I got. All right, we can always change all this. Right click it, insert single keyframe. Okay, and then we go to frame 30 if it goes to that one. So let's go to frame 45 right here. Let's move it down about that much. Right click, insert single keyframe, and then another 15 frames to move it back to 0. So I'm just going to type it in. That was the original position, right, at the beginning. Insert single keyframe, right click, and now let's kind of play it. All right, so might be too erratic. Okay, and it's two-way even. So now this is where we do our animation edit. So I'm gonna grab all this key except for the first one. I'm just gonna move this one. Maybe it'll take about 25 frames for it to go down right there. I'm gonna extend this one a little bit to maybe 65. Bring this up around 95. Let's watch it. All right, so that looks a little bit better. All right, if it's way too much for you, you can kind of change that. All right, again, we're only watching this at 100, meaning if I change my animation to, let's say, 500 frames long, and then let's see that accordingly. Of course, this one stops at whatever frame 95 wherever it ends. So we also need to add the cycle of the animation to this. All right, because it stops moving right there. So we'll do the exact same thing as before. We're going to select both. All right, park the cursor right here within the animation. Shift E, make cyclic animation, and now it should actually on 95 we don't want it at 0 because it's coming from below, right? We want to make sure it doesn't have that kind of stop. It's just one frame. It might not matter, but let's see, on 95, let's just kind of go lower a bit. Insert single, replace single keyframe. Let's see, because I don't want it kind of wobbling up and down. So 92. Okay, it's still on its way up. You know, it's total negative. You won't even see that, but just kind of like when you're rotating 360, right? So if you cycle it and you animate it from 0 to 360, then it actually have that one frame pause. So you want to animate from 0 to 359, and it starts again at 0, which completes the cycle. All right, so kind of like what I did here, but you can ignore that. That will actually see that. So let's play this all the way to 300. Just kind of watching it cycle now. All right, and of course there's other stuff that we can do here. We can also, I don't know, do a rotation on the plane while it's happening. We could, maybe you can add a little bit of sway to it. Okay, let's add that. Okay, because you can actually bank and whatnot when we add the follow path. So let's add some rotation. So I'm going to go back to frame 1 here. All right, let's go to rotation. So the axis that we need is the green one. That's the one that rotates the plane like so. Right here, right? So we're just no rotation at this. So we're just going to go right click, insert single keyframe. Okay, and then we're going to go maybe a frame 35, just a slight rotation. All right, okay. Right click here, insert single keyframe. Let's see what that does. All right, so it did that one right there, rotate, and then maybe at 75, counter that rotation going that way. Again, just slight, nothing too drastic. Insert single keyframe, and then maybe back at 100, we go back to 0. Okay, insert single keyframe. Let's take a look. All right, so if I were to select now, so I'm just going to just the Euler rotation right here. Okay, just select those 4 keys, park it within that one, Shift E, make cyclic. All right, it didn't do it that time. Let me do it again. I don't think it's doing it, so I'm just gonna, well, I'm just gonna select everything right here and make sure that we have Shift E. All right, for some reason it's not okay, let me select it right here. That's what I forgot to do. Now it is there. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Even though I selected the key, it's not highlighted right here, so make sure it's highlighted. All right, now there's our kind of static idle animation, kind of like when you're with your video games on their resting state. You know, if you play any video game, they just do something on their natural state in a way. So this thing is now flying. Of course, it will not cycle correctly because our cycle here, it's at 100. Some of them are not on their actual length right there, because when you hit the end of the timeline, it's not going to cycle, right? But then again, this we're doing this per shot. All right, if you're doing this for video game, and you need to make sure this needs to be all 100. Okay, meaning even though you don't have any movement from 95 to 100, you got to put a key right there, just so that when it cycles, it's the same. If you watch our bouncing ball video lesson, it will do the same thing. All right, so now we got this doing its thing. Very minimal stuff. Propeller, up and down movement of the body, some rotation on the body. That's all. All right, now we can, I'm going to file and save this as a different name here so that I can keep giving you animated the file to play with without any of the animation, so you get a fresh one. All right, so let's set the path right here. So I'm going to go to number 7 here to go to the top, and let's add an object. Okay, I'm going to go curve circle. We'll make it simple right here, and then we're going to press S to scale that one so that it can kind of circle around any object that you want. All right, so right there. Okay, just so that we do kind of have like a little purpose on this thing, let me set up a building right there. Just get a cube basically. All right, and then what I'll do with a cube is let me get rid of my cursor first. Kind of get this cube like so, and then just simply go below, and then we'll raise this up later so that there's there's an object that we can go around. All right, so right here, what we need to do in order for this, and this is where the animation starts right here, and what we want to do is that we want to make this plane follow that path right there. Okay, and we'll do it the wrong way so that you'll see what you have to do in order to kind of correct this. Okay, so normally if you just want an object to follow a path, you select the object first, which is the main parent, which is the plane body, and then shift click the path right here, and you can change the path. It doesn't have to be a circle. Once you do that, it's kind of like parenting. So you do Control P, except instead of object, you follow path right here. So if I click this plane, okay, where it's at right now, we'll just simply follow that path. So watch this when I press the space bar to play. All right. So it just did that. All right. Because it's not positioned where the path is. Okay. So let's go back to frame 0 right there, and then if I go to the top right here where it's kind of flat, not on frame 1 because it already has that first rotation, so I'm going to click undo. Okay, all right, before we did the pad animation there. Okay, so we need to position this plane where it needs to be. Okay, the problem is we animated this plane. Remember, there's a position for it. Okay, so if I move this, oops, sorry, it's the plane. Okay, and press the space bar. Let me find it. Okay, I mean, it will work at this point, but let's take a look. Okay, I'm going to position it here. Shift click this, and then press P, Control P, follow path. All right. What happens is that you lose your transform. Okay, you lose your move tool because it is now replaced with the position of the path. All right, so this is where we need our parent. Okay, so I'm going to click undo. All right, so what we want is not to animate this plane along the path, but we want another parent. So the body of the plane is getting a parent, and that parent now will control the body of the plane. Okay, so let's take a look here. Let's get an object, add, and we do have this follow path lesson and by itself in the channel with the spaceship if you want to take a look at that one. So we're going to use an empty. Okay, and for this one, so it's we could actually see it a lot easier. We're just going to go with a cube. So this cube now will be this kind of like transparent wireframe, right? So I can scale this one so we can easily grab it. Okay, and then I'm going to move it here so it's centered to the plane. All right, and then what I'll do with this is apply all transform delta so that as if we just put it there and the scale is the same. All right. So we're going to now select the body, shift click the empty. Okay, let's rename this. We're going to call it plane parent. Okay, shift click it, select the body, shift click the empty, Control P, object. So what happens when we move the empty, the plane follows. Okay, kind of silly right now because you can just move the plane, but here's where we need to change that. So now we can put this over here. So if I press number 7, all right, so I'm gonna go to my move tool. I'm gonna move this guy right here where the beginning of that path is. All right, so I'm gonna try and center it to the wireframe right here, to the path right there. Okay, all right, so now we have this one. As you can see here, when we press our space bar, we still have all that animation for that plane, correct? So, and select the, let's go to number 1, lower the cube down to where the path is, which is on this red line. Okay, and let me just to make sure apply my deltas. All right, and then what we'll do is that while this empty is selected, we're going to shift click the path, control P, follow path. All right, when you follow the path right here, you have a keep transform and whatnot, and then let's see the difference here. All right, there it is. It's just kind of circling around. All right, but the thing is, it's moving super fast because we have it on 100 frames, and it just kind of repeats the loop. It's way too fast, so we can't really see it. So let's slow this down. Okay, so I'm going to select the curve. Okay, I'm going to go to the curve option right here, pad animation right there. It's set to 100 frames, so let's make this all the way to 500 frames, right? So just one circle in 500 frames. So I'm going to change this to 500. Okay, and now what happens is this. All right, so it's kind of slow. All right, we can put our clamp right here if all right, and I'm sorry, follow right there. So now it's sliding right here. Okay, but we want to put a follow. It actually locks itself in there. So all we have to do is go back to 0, number 7 right here, and let's just make sure where the rotation is, so it goes that way. Okay, we can select our follow pad here. We can rotate this so it's facing the orientation over there. So now when we again select the curve, follow is up right there. I'm going to put clamp right here. They can't travel past the point, and no, let's not clamp it. All right, so let's see. All right, so now we're have all those secondary motion while it's following a path. All right, let's now grow our building right here. Set up our camera. You probably noticed that we could set up a camera to follow along the path as well. All right. We can also select the path, press tab, and then it comes with all these points right here. So if I manipulate this, move that up, guess what happens? It just ramps up, follows it. Okay, select some of these, GZ, and it's equal distance between points. So if there's points that are packed in here, then it's going to, not unless you make it relative. You go to graph editor and change it. So there it is. And when you want faster travel for the plane, you simply change this, let's say 250, half the speed, double the speed, and it's much faster. It will do the rotation in 250 frames. All right, and that's it. So that's how you cycle an animation and follow a path. All right.